folks, we have lost a giant in the journalism circles. Simeon Booker passed away at the age of 99 yesterday at his home in Solomons, Maryland. For decades, Booker was a Washington bureau chief for Jet and Ebony magazines. He also was the first African-American to become a full-time reporter at the Washington Post. Booker chronicled the civil rights movement, venturing into the Deep South, which put his life at risk on many occasions. He is credited for bringing the brutal 1955 murder of Emmett Till to national prominence, which galvanized the civil rights movement. He, along with Roland Martin, of course, they were very much involved in that particular coverage. Simeon Booker also wrote about this book, and it's amazing. I was traveling here to Houston, and I grabbed his book to read. This is his book right here. It is a book called Shocking the Conscience, a reporter's account of the civil rights movement. He wrote the book with his wife Carol McCabe Booker. Simeon signed this book for me when he was inducted into the National Association of Black Journalists Hall of Fame. It is an amazing book. You think about the work that he did for so many years. Many of you folks, of course, if you're not a millennial, you know about this here. When you read the Washington column in Jet magazine, he wrote that particular column every single week, and he worked, really up into his late 80s. And so many journalists, of course, so many black journalists know about Simeon Booker, know about his amazing work. And I'll turn to my panel now. Gerald Horn, you were telling me during the break that you've written a book on the black press.
Absolutely. The Associated Negro Press came into existence after World War I, lasted until 1967, had correspondents all over the world, helped to feed copy to many black newspapers. It was like a black equivalent of the Associated Press, a black equivalent of UPI. And it was a sad day when it passed into history.
And this is when you talk about, again, black media, why black media matters. Sure, you can say Simeon Booker was the first full-time black reporter for the Washington Post. He's quoted as saying when he first started reporting, he would go into places covering robberies, and they thought he was a stick-up man by simply asking questions. But it was black media that gave the opportunity for the Simeon Bookers to be able to cover national news. In the book, The Race Beat, that won a Pulitzer Prize, it talked about, of course, the role the media played when it came to the civil rights movement, but it wasn't for those reporters at the Chicago Defender, at Ebony, at Jet, at the Tri-State Defender, at the Pittsburgh Courier. We would not have known about any of those particular stories. I mean, that's really what Simeon Booker's legacy is about. Actually, we're talking about being here in Houston, Forward Times, Houston Defender, Houston Informer, how vital black media is to our narrative.
Black media, first of all, black media is independent media. It holds people accountable. It keeps people honest. Without that media, without people like you, without people like April Ryan, who works in the White House often and is constantly attacked, and people like that, we need to be able to have those voices in with our perspectives, but also can be conscious enough that they're still reporting the news.
And Gerald, I think about a story Lerone Bennett told. Many of us have seen that photo of Monetta Sleet, of course, who was the photographer for Ebony magazine at Dr. King's funeral. That iconic image, Dr. King's daughter on the lap of his wife, Coretta Scott King. But what's interesting is that Bennett tells a story that it was him and Simeon Booker who went to Coretta Scott King and said, the white media will not allow Ebony and Jet into the pool to be able to shoot the funeral of Dr. King. And Coretta Scott King said to them, you send word that if Ebony and Jet is not allowed in that pool, no one will be inside shooting the funeral of Dr. King. That's how Sleet was in that particular pool, and that's how he shot that photo to become the first African-American ever to win a Pulitzer Prize for photography.
Well, it's not only that. I mean, you mentioned just a moment ago the tragic story of Emmett Till, the black teenager who was killed in Monty, Mississippi in 1955 after journeying down from his hometown in Chicago. what helped to catapult that important story into headlines all over the world was the sad and tragic photograph of him in his casket. That photograph would not have been made but for the presence of black photographers, particularly from Chicago Defender. So I don't think we can say enough about the historic importance of the black press, and may it live on.
So again, folks, Simeon Booker, dead at the age of 99. Be sure, if you can, folks, to get his book. Again, his book is called Shocking the Conscience, a reporter's account of the civil rights movement. An amazing book, and we certainly appreciate all that Simeon Booker has done. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family with their loss, but he has certainly left us an indelible legacy. And so again, Simeon Booker, longtime journalist for Jet and Ebony, dead at the age of 99.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.